In this video, we're going to look at how you might create an abstract typographic loop like this, using only text animators in After Effects. Hi, I'm Adam Bennett, this is the Video Shop. In the motion design course I teach, we look at text animators, but there's really only time to scratch the surface. We look at how they work and how to create templates, which might be handy for quickly adding a bit of animation production value to a video. The benefit is that they're procedural, so if a client changes copy on you at the last minute, you won't lose your mind. And of course you can create typographic motion posters like this with them. That kind of animation's fun, but it's sort of omnipresent. Shit, did I just rule out doing any future tutorials or stuff like that? What I'm interested in here is exploring their creative potential, playing around and leaning into unexpected results. So while I'll show you how I got to this is a tutorial where you should embrace not ending up with the same result.
My experiments did not turn out quite like yours.
One of the inspirations for this and the second video was this book, Typography by Emil Ruder. I'm completely superficial, so rather than reading it properly and absorbing it, I just skimmed the pictures and made a note of some that I found interesting. I'll explore how this book influenced me more in the next video, but in the meantime, if experimenting with text animators is your jam, I'd also really recommend this tutorial by Carl Hamrick at School of Motion. I mean, don't watch it now, finish mine first obviously. Lastly, before we start, if you want, I've posted the whole 12-hour workflow for this animation on my sister channel Video Shop Longplay. I've chaptered each comp so you can see step by step how each one was made. And there's also the free project file you can download on Gumroad.
Alright, let's get this thing started.
We'll start with this one first, and then we'll get a little bit more abstract. Okay, let's start off with a new comp. 1920 1080, 24 frames a second, and classic 3D. And we'll call this Radial text lines. I'm going to copy that. Okay, new text layer. And paste Radial text lines. The font I'm using is Arial monospaced MT. Doesn't matter what font you use, I was just playing around with monospaced typefaces. Font size I'm using is 30. The leading I'm going to set to 10. And I'm going to leave the tracking at 100. So that's all fine. And the first thing I'm going to do is something that I didn't know until I looked into it after I created the animation, but we're going to add a repeater on the text so that we don't have to copy and paste it and type it out. If you ever do something where you need wall-to-wall text for whatever reason, and there's the likelihood that you might want to change the text to read something else, this would be a good shout to use this. So we're going to drop this down, go into text, alt-click on the source text, and it was unique on our Discord server who pointed me towards this, and then I found a tutorial by Ukramedia. So this is not me, again piggybacking on the cleverness of others. Okay, so what we're going to do is type repeat, gives us these brackets, and if we just put 3 and then enter, shockingly that'll repeat it 3 times. I'm going to turn it off and just add a space after that. Turn it back on again. So I've got radial text lines. Actually for this, might drop the kerning to 50. Okay, that's going to repeat it on the same line. If when you add the expression you get this error message, go into project settings and change your expressions engine from legacy to JavaScript, and that should fix it. If we want lines and lines and lines and lines going down, we type this plus and this is where we type in the number of lines that we want. Let's put 50 in. So that's going to repeat it 50 times. I'm going to drop the repetition of that phrase to 2, so we have something more like a square. Okay, I'm going to center this, so Control Alt Home to center the anchor point, and then Control Home to center in screen. So you're already one step ahead of me when I was doing this. We're going to add a rotation parameter, I guess you'd call it, effector, rotation effector, let's call it, to our text. So with our text selected, rotation, and I like to name these as I go so they're nice and tidy. So if we put the rotation at 1, drop down our range selector and advanced, and change this to ramp down. Okay, we can see it's rotating. Now, even if we drop this down, still rotating the characters, we need to go to more options, and the anchor point grouping, we're going to change this to line, and now we've got the lines rotating instead. The ease, I think I had it at 70, but there's going to be lots of things here where it's dealer's choice and you're going to play around and get your own results. So the offset, we're going to set that to -100, keyframe, go to 2-ish seconds. Let's do 2 seconds on the nose and 100. And just have a look at that. What happened? That happened. We want -100 to 100. It's a bit linear still, even with the ease. I mean, even if we put it up to 100 and 100. Not making that much difference. I'm going to change that back, and we can. There's nothing stopping us, even though that is easing. There's nothing stopping us applying our own ease into these keyframes. So I'm going to use flow, just apply that, and so now we have easing on top of our easing. So that's a bit more zippy. Next, I'm going to add line spacing. I'm going to call that leaden. So if we set this, so we can minus it, and actually went to the correct values straight away. But if we do it one by one, so it's bunching them up. The good thing is we can turn, after we've keyframed this, we can turn these on and off and see what they look like with lots of effectors or with just a couple. It's fine. It's all part of playing around and experimenting with these. So this I'm going to set to ramp down, and then offset. The value -10, that correlates to the leading up here. So just to be aware, if your leading was 20, have that set to -20. And I'm going to put ease in 50 on these. I can't remember what I put, but again, I'm going to apply this and just see what that looks like. So what I want is for it to just be dropping down before it starts to rotate. So all I need to do is press U, and the only problem when you press U and you're just revealing the keyframes is you just see range selector, you don't know what it's related to. Can we rename those? Yeah, we could, but that's probably too much naming for me. So you've got the range selector, rotation. I mean, I suppose you could do that. I mean, that's even more anal than I am, I think. But at least then, now we press U, you know what you're tweaking. So I want it to drop down before it rotates, so I'm going to just grab this. No, let's grab this one first, so the leading. Just get rid of some of that easing. Quickly see what that looks like. So it's dropping first. We can tweak these a bit more in a second, but let's now add opacity. We're not going to animate it, just so it looks a bit nicer sort of here. Be nice if the text had a bit of opacity, a bit of translucency to it. Wait, hold on. A bit of opaqueness. Okay, a bit of opaqueness to it. Anyway, so this is what I had. So you can sort of see where it's doubling up, and you get more of a sort of a gradient when they're layering on top of each other. Explain that really badly. Apparently there was a reason why I said it's 40. Anyway, so I'm just gonna leave it what I had. And again, name that opacity. Doesn't seem to matter where we have that in our stack. Sometimes, you know, if you put one above the other, it can make a difference. So now the last thing we want to do is, because it's going linearly, no, let's not even try that word. Or, you know, to adjust the shape of where these lines are radiating out from, we can adjust the grouping alignment. And if we set that to -200, they fan out over here, which was what, and this is what I quite liked, was the kind of effect of them dropping back into place. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, not exactly the same timing as the one that I had, but that's the idea. So what I did when I was playing around with these text animators was, if I got one that I was quite happy with, maybe add 01 and then just duplicate it, and then go in and just adjust some of the parameters and just see what different results you get. Because one of the things we changed was the anchor point grouping. So if we change that back to character, you're going to get this weird bumpy effect where it looks like the text is unfurling. Now the timing here is a little bit off. We kind of want that to kick in a bit sooner. So let's go in to our rotation and just micro tweak that and then let in. So I quite liked how it looked like it was unfurling, and the only thing that was lacking was a little bit of overshoot animation, but you could add that with time and patience. With a bit of tweaking and also animating, because you can animate the that grouping alignment as well. So it starts off larger here, so I think I bumped it up to 800 and then had it animate off to 0. And then you get this. Let's look at this one now. Got a comp, I've called it full stops particles. Got a black background color, and add a new text layer and put a full stop in. I'm using Monster at black, but anything that gives you a round full stop will be fine. Now what I did when I created mine was to type/copy and paste a load of full stops, but we don't need to do that. We can go to our radial lines, press E. We're going to grab our repeater code, so because I'm lazy and I don't want to type it out, and then apply that. But we're going to want, oh, I don't know, let's go for 100. Let's go for 100 and 100. You're definitely going to want more than that, but we can see how it's working quite easily with those values. The size, put the size to 50. Let's just keep nice round numbers. And the leading, let's put that to 50 as well. We can always tweak this. Control Alt Home, Control Home. Then I'm going to add an ellipse. Sort of aiming for the middle. Set it to none. And then just zoom in. Apostrophe for title say, so I can see the square, and then just double click on this, and then doesn't need to be dead center, because we're going to add some randomness to these particles anyway, but that'll do roughly, and actually maybe make it smaller. Okay. In path options, so they're going to fan out around that mask. But what we want to fix is the kind of non-uniform nature of how they're spreading out. So just to have a look and see what's happening here, if we drop the repeater down to 10, we can fix the tracking, and probably if we just drop it all the way down, that'll give us how close we want these to be. Now, depending on the number that you've got, I mean, that looks, let's set it to -200. But now we're going to need to increase the number here. So there's going to be a little bit of adjustment involved. Now I'll skip through this process. Whatever, it's close enough. So now we're going to add an animator for the position. And you can see when it does this, these crosses which indicate the anchor points. Now I'm going to just zoom in, because we're going to want them flush. So I'm just going to go into more options and the anchor point grouping, and adjust them slightly, and that looks okay. Call this animate in, and then the position, set that to 2,500, and then go into the range selector, ramp down. We also want to adjust it so that we randomize the order. So now let's quickly animate that, see what that looks like. Okay, there's a bit to do, but that's a start. We can also add leading onto this animation as well, so it looks like it's sort of collecting more in the center. I'm not explaining that very well. Anyway, let's just have a look. Okay, so let's add line spacing to that. Hard to see here. In fact, let's set this to 0 just so we can actually see what's happening when we add this. So the line spacing, we want to bump it up so it's they're more spread out, and then they're congregating. Again, not explaining that very well. So 2.5 again. Now when they're animating, there's a bit more movement to them. Still a bit to do. So let's put this to 100, maybe set that to 30. Okay. And let's not forget we can always ease these as well. So apply that. Let's see what that looks like. A bit too quick, so go in, maybe pull this last keyframe out. Okay. What I did, which I'm not going to go through step by step was to have them animate in and then animate out, but you're just copying and pasting this first keyframe to have them animate out. And I added line spacing or leading effector. That's what I'm choosing to call these effectors, effector groups, whatever. As they animate out, you've got even more of a sense of them spreading out. So I'm going to turn this off just so I can see what this one on its own is going to do. So we set the line spacing to 200, but then we want it to be ramping down. And adjust that. And there's no ease in at the moment, but let's just put both of these on 50. And preview that. Yeah, okay. And the very last thing was add in, because again, all the size of everything was a bit too linear. So just add a scale, and that's why I wanted the anchor points to be absolutely flush on, because I wanted the concentric circles when they animate in, but with a bit of variation on scale of these individual particles. So we'll call that scale, and we're going to make sure that okay, set the scale to say 40, and then randomize the order, and then set that to ramp up or down. Actually shouldn't matter. And again, you can adjust the random seed you want, but you just got like a bit of variation on the particles, and that's not going to be animated, that's just going to be there affecting them, so you can turn that on and off. That's it for this video. In part 2, we'll look at how you can pull disparate experiments like these together into a single animated loop. Thanks for watching, see you again soon.